and TV podcast. Hi, everyone. I'd love to introduce you to my friend Jane Goldie Winn. We've known each other for a little while. It was pretty awesome how we met at a pro-life event. Actually, a movie that we went and saw, and we are actually standing in line to be interviewed. And I'm not even sure if I remember who the news outlet was at the time, but you and I were standing in line, and they were interviewing the Sorbos, and I just remember looking over at you and saying, "Wow, I guess we don't rate," because they just kept on interviewing them, and I think I said, like, "What's your story?" or something like that, and you said, "Well, I got my book and all," and we just really had a liking for each other at the time. It was really good, and I don't know, I just heard from God that says, "You go and interview her." So I think it was like a week later we went down to Delray and did the interview. And it's been pretty cool after that. So just you share with us a little bit about what happened after that, and share some about why you wrote your book and actually the movie that followed.
I know there's so much to keep up with everything. But, it was interesting because after you did the interview, you had suggested that I go to the ICFF, the International Christian Film Festival, because there I would, meet people and, learn all about the movie business, because the book had come out in January of 2019, just before COVID, and it's called Rainbow in the Night, A Journey of Redemption. And it took me 20 years to complete it, because I had to really work through a lot of issues, and I felt like the Lord said, "Nope, you're not going to finish it until you work through these issues," because there were areas I hadn't really surrendered to Him, particularly my painful past. So when I did that and I surrendered, then things just began to unfold, and the next thing you know, I'm at this Christian Film Festival, and I'm going in and I'm talking to producers and meeting people. And I'll never forget it. I met an actress, and she said, "Well, you should talk to the producers a little bit about your situation, see what they think." And I said, "Okay." So I went up and I talked to them, and it was that prodigal, it was like a short, that was so good. The prodigal coin, the prodigal son. And it was just such a good movie. And I went up to them and was talking to them about it. And I said, "Well, I wrote my book, and people are telling me it should be made into a movie, but I've never been to a film festival before. I don't have any idea what to do." And so the producer said, "Well, how did you write the book?" And I said, "Well, it was as though when I went away to write every chapter, I would be praying, and the Lord would give me a video, like I'm very visual, and I would see a video of every scene that I was to be writing about. So what would happen is I'd be sitting there with my computer, looking into the video of the scene, experiencing all the emotions of the scene as I was writing." And that's why people, when they read the book, say they feel the emotion, because I had to really literally step into it in order to do that. So when I told the producer that, he said, "Well, you have a movie then." And I said, "Oh, okay." So then one thing led to the other, and the person who, I guess it was Tim Papatic, and his wife Beth had produced Dead Man Running. Dead Man Running. And so my friend Celeste had the opportunity to talk with them, Dr. Celeste and John Lee, and said, "Hey, there's this project that you might want to think about doing, because this book is really a very powerful book, and many people have been deeply helped already. Would you consider taking it on?" Since they knew they were faith-based movie producers. And they actually said yes. So then the journey began. And what I needed to do was to do sort of like what you would call crowdfunding. And so we set it up under a nonprofit, and I had to raise about $60,000 in order for the movie, for the production and everything to take place. And I just gave it all to the Lord, and He just kept leading people to me that said, "I want to be involved. I want to give you $5,000. This one said, "I want to give you $10,000." I mean, people just came to me. I didn't have to ask for any money. I sent out a newsletter letting people know the updates, and I had like one of those columns that would show how much money was raised. But it was amazing, because I just really felt like if the Lord wanted it to happen, it would. And so then it did, and it was just like, wow. So you were at the premiere. We had a premiere June 4th, 2023 in the Movies of Delray, which was amazing. There was, I guess, a little close to 200 people, all dressed up in their tuxes and their long gowns, and we had the red
Beautiful.
carpet, and it was just an amazing, amazing event. And to see the movie and Dolby Sound in the big theater, and to see all these people that I know all dressed up to the nines, and they were people from all different backgrounds, all different faith backgrounds. Some were pro-choice, some were pro-life. It didn't matter. They were just all people that I knew, and people were so emotionally taken in by the movie that at the end, the whole theater stood up to their feet, and it was just like, whoa, when Dave and I were walking down at the end. And so it made us realize that the movie impacts people from all backgrounds. It doesn't matter what their faith background is, it doesn't matter what their political views are, because I'm telling my story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my story that they interact with. And people today, I believe, are looking for authenticity and vulnerability. And so that's really the key to it. So since then, it just seems like things have taken off, and the Lord has just opened up doors around the country to do movie screenings. And I'm just obedient when He says, go here, okay. And He always just provides the way for me to go. And so I've done, I'm doing some local in Florida and some out of state. But my hope is just that this movie, just like the book, will impact people's hearts in a very deep way, especially people that might have difficulty letting go of their painful past, that they can just realize, that, wow, if the Lord can do this for Goldie, He can do it for me too. And that's because I'm just a person that He chose for this project. But, I just believe I'm to set the tone for others to say, you know what, I can receive that kind of healing too. And at every movie screening, it seems that there are women who've had past abortions that come forward and need some encouragement. So I try to have someone present from a pregnancy center that can minister to them afterwards and make sure that they get the help they need. So it's just been amazing. And I don't know what the Lord has in mind, but thankfully He did bring Vision Video on board, and they wanted to distribute it, and Take a Network is distributing it. So I'm just open to whatever He has, and that was an exciting event, just to know that the movie now will be made available to people all over the world and lots of different streaming platforms. And I just want it to be all about Him, not about me.
Right.
And it's what He's done in my life. Without Him, I wouldn't be here. I do know that. So I'm so grateful to Him and to you, Barry, because you got the ball rolling for me. You were the one who really encouraged me.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Talking about the movie, I think there's so many redemptive moments in that in your movie and in your life, that one being your relationship with your father,
Yes.
which was so so broken in the beginning, and then but just it's amazing what happened later, and how your dad, not even being a Christian for was able to actually change a lot of his ways too,
Yes,
because of
yes.
his love for his daughters and all. And it may have started out one way, but ended much better. Yeah. So maybe tell a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, that's a little different aspect of the story,
Yeah.
because I was brought up. I'm Jewish, so both my parents are Jewish, and so we, for most of my childhood, we lived in a small town in Iowa, where my father was a psychiatrist and the superintendent of a large state mental hospital. So it was very interesting living on the grounds of this hospital, and interacting with the patients and the staff. And there were about 1,100 patients when we arrived in 1958, and 500 staff that he was responsible for. So it was a big responsibility. But I just remember watching how he cared for them as human beings, and really just wanted to help them and normalize their situation. So he turned the hospital from like a custodial care center to one of the most comprehensive mental health treatment centers in the country that's still open to this day.
Wow.
And my father died in 1988, but the superintendent that took his place when he retired in 1958 is still the superintendent to this very day. So I hope to go back there at some point and maybe do my own little video and just just look back and see what it was like as an adult, looking back. But my father, it was interesting, around a lot of people, because he was very well known, he was very well loved, but in his own family he really had difficulties. There was a not good relationship with my older sister. She was 6 years older than me, and she was a strong personality, and and I think he wanted her to be something that she didn't want to be, and
Mm-hmm.
there was just always friction there, and there was sadly physical and emotional abuse, and a lot of which I had to see, and then there was some emotional and physical abuse with me. And I had a younger sister, Kathy, who was 5 years younger than I am, but thankfully by the time she came along, everything had changed. But because of that, I just had this sense like, oh wow, this is really hard. So when I went away to college in 1967, it was right as the hippie revolution was starting. And I thought, living in this small town in Iowa where there was only 5,000 people, we were the only Jewish people there. And there was some, I don't want to come out and say anti Semitism, but there was some misunderstanding and they didn't know how to accept Jewish people.
Mm-hmm.
So there was some persecution. So I just felt like, wow, this is a little scary. I don't know really where I belong, where I fit in. And then, when I went away to Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa, to major in music in 1967, that's when the hippies started to come on campus. And I was just drawn to them and to the lifestyle because I felt like, oh, wow, they're going to accept me. They're going to accept me exactly who I am,
Mm-hmm.
and there's not going to be any judgment, or whatever. And I didn't know what I was getting into because I was so sheltered. I'd never had any sexual relationships with anyone. I never even dated. So for me, once I got involved, the whole thing broke loose, and I got involved in the promiscuity, the drugs, the rock and roll, the sex, drugs, rock and roll, unfortunately. And it took me down a very dark path that I wasn't necessarily prepared for. And I guess there's a saying, that Egypt isn't just a river of denial, So, I mean,
Right.
I went into denial for a long time, not realizing that I was pregnant. And by
Okay.
that time, I'd moved to Michigan and found out that I was probably in my second trimester of pregnancy. It was before ultrasounds. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what to do. And I was afraid to tell my father, my parents, because I thought they would, I didn't know what they would do, but I didn't want to take the risk. So I just
Right.
said, okay, that's it. I got to do something. And my friend said, well, in California, abortion is illegal. Maybe you can go there and have an abortion. So I just decided to do that because I didn't think I had any other choice. And then
Mm-hmm.
when I got to the hospital and they did the exam, they said, well, you are well into your second trimester, and we're going to have to inject the fetus with what they call saline solution, and the baby will die, and then you're going to have to deliver it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so again, I was in so much denial and numbness. I wasn't even really attaching to it emotionally at that point. But I remember what I do remember, and there's some that I didn't remember until 27 years later. But what I do remember is the nurse saying to me, "Well, when the baby stops kicking, click the button and I'll come in." So she came in, and I clicked the button, and the next thing you know, I hear a plop, and that was it. Now what she said to me went into my subconscious until 27 years later when I was going through abortion recovery. Only then did I remember hearing her say, oh, you would have had a perfect baby boy. So after that abortion, I got back on the plane and I was going back to Michigan, and I was just in this state of numbness, and I was having all this pain in my body, and I wasn't sure if it had to do with the abortion, and I was scared and upset, and I just didn't know what to do. So of course I started taking more drugs, just became more promiscuous, doing everything I could to numb the pain, which we now know is post-abortion syndrome or
Mm-hmm.
post-traumatic stress disorder, which is very similar to post-abortion syndrome, except with the addition of guilt. When you have an abortion, women feel guilty, they feel shame, and I certainly did. So I covered it all up because somehow that you're meant to give life, you're not meant to take it, even though it's not conscious. Some in your subconscious, you know that. So when I went back to Michigan and the pain had worsened, no nurse or doctor would examine me because they said abortion isn't legal here. So
Oh.
we can't examine you. You're going to have to call your parents because I was under 21. I was 20. And I knew I couldn't call my parents. So I called my sister who lived in Connecticut. Esther, who's 6 years older. And she was a social worker at the time, married to a social worker. She says, come out to Connecticut, we'll help you. And I dropped out of college because that wasn't going well. I couldn't focus anymore in school. So I went out to Connecticut and she called the hospital. Same thing. They wouldn't examine me without my father's permission. So she said, you're just going to have to call him and tell him the truth. And I'm getting a lump in my throat even as we talk about it.
Yeah.
So I remember picking up the phone and I said, well, Daddy, I just have to tell you that I had sex. I'm a hippie. I did drugs. I got pregnant and I had an abortion.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, he says to me, well, you're no good to our family anymore. You might as well just be dead to us. And he slammed the phone down. And at that moment, because I protected myself, I felt like, oh, he's going to do that. I was sort of prepared for that. But then 5 minutes later, the phone rang and he said, you know what? No, I do love you and I want to help you. I want to do everything I can to help you. So that's when I began to go to therapy and start to work through a lot. And then, of course, fast forward many, many years later, when I came to know the Lord in 1974 in Mankato, Minnesota, the Lord met my husband and I. At the time, we were just, hippies together. And then he just met us at this prayer meeting. And the Lord just came to us in such a real way. And we just together on August 4th, 1974, dedicated our lives to Jesus, or Yeshua, we say in Hebrew. And from that moment on, we were totally different. And in November, we were married. So we've been married 50 years. And we knew that we couldn't live in sin anymore. We needed to be married. And my parents had a hard time with it at first because, Jews and Gentiles, they don't really like to mix. They like to keep. But they love Dave. So they were able to accept it and accept him. So that was good.
Yeah, Dave's a great guy.
Oh, he's a great guy. No doubt about it. He is. So, so that, that's a big part of the story. I don't want to tell it all because people then won't want to read the book or see the movie.
Oh, there's so much more to it.
There's so much more
I
know,
to
there
it,
is.
and
yeah.
And I did have the blessings of being able to actually help film it. Some parts of it,
yes.
So that was a real blessing, and it was amazing. Just seeing the different types of emotions coming out of you when you were telling your stories and all that stuff, and you could see where the pain was.
Yeah,
you could see that, when that came in, and a big part of that was the abortion.
Yes.
That was a huge part, and I just love it. It just fills my heart with joy, the fact that how the Lord has used you in the last, I guess, 30 years or so, or maybe.
Oh, in the pregnancy,
in the pregnancy centers. It's just I think of how many lives that we lost that little boy, but how many lives that little boy has changed.
Yes.
I mean, saved. I meant to say changed. Old lives have changed as well.
Because of the story, because I could use
because
that
of the
clients.
story and because of your heart.
Yes.
Because you have that heart.
Yes.
You knew. God told you. You knew that. That those lives were important.
Right.
Those lives are important to Him.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you basically devoted your life for over, I'm sure, half of your life you've devoted to saving these babies, and that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, it started
that's
in
the real miracle there. Yeah.
And then I just retired. I worked in Pennsylvania, and then when we moved down here in 2011, I started working at First Care Women's Clinic in a few different roles there. And my latest role was working in the Palm Beach Gardens Clinic, meeting with abortion determined clients, which was it was very intense because you had to get to their hearts because they come in and they're just determined. But the Lord, there's 933 scriptures about the heart. So I always prayed before every session that the Lord would help me to go into the heart to understand what was going on in that woman's life, and so I could reach her there. And so there were many times, when women did change their minds. Thank the Lord. There were times when they didn't, and then we would still love them and pray for them and just make sure that if they needed help, if they did get the abortion afterwards, they could get abortion counseling. But I felt like in November of this year, it was just like the Lord saying, you're getting too busy, and I'm moving you on to a new chapter, and you need to retire from your clinic work. Yeah. So it was a mixed blessing because I loved it. I loved every minute of it. But I just knew that that's what He was saying, so I did that. Of course, I'm still, involved with First Care whenever I can be, with fundraisers and supporting them. But I just feel like I have to be free to take the movie out there because there's a larger audience. Yeah. And now it's under distribution with Vision Video. So that will mean that people are able to see it in many different streaming platforms.
Mm-hmm.
They said nationally and internationally. So it's already has quite a few views on their YouTube channel.
That's great.
And I think it will just continue to move on as the Lord would have it. And like I always say, it's His movie, not my movie. So whatever He wants to do with it, I'm just going to go along for the ride.
You're going to go along with it. Yeah. I have to ask this question because there's, I'm curious. With your counseling and stuff, when a woman decided that yes, she's going to keep the baby, whether she actually keeps the baby or puts it up for adoption, was there like a specific maybe percentage of them that would keep the baby and some that would just put the baby up for adoption?
Well, sadly, I wish I could tell you there were great numbers with adoption, but there weren't. I would say in my whole years of doing the pregnancy center ministry, I can count on my right hand the women that I was with who chose adoption, but one in particular I'll never forget.
Okay.
This was a wonderful story. She came to us, she was referred to us in Pennsylvania from the governor's office. I guess she contacted them, she didn't know what to do. She had a diagnosis of bipolar. She was Catholic and she did not believe in abortion, but she knew that she wouldn't be stable enough to have the baby, and the boyfriend knew that as well. So they wanted to make an adoption plan, and they found us, our pregnancy center. So I came alongside her, and when she decided that that's definitely what she wanted to do, I was able to refer her to the adoption agency where they do the adoption counseling with her.
Okay.
But then she said to me, I want you to be with me when I relinquish the baby. Would you be willing to be with me? And I just thought, okay, by God's grace, yes. And so but the wonderful miracle that the Lord did for this lady, and I'll never forget it, is she was on this, intense medicine, in the days, lithium, right, for the bipolar.
Right.
But the second she became pregnant, she became lucid and didn't need the medicine. She couldn't take the medicine anyway with the pregnancy.
Right.
But the Lord gave her this lucidity so she could be present throughout the whole pregnancy. So we met together just in supporting her, and then she was also meeting with the adoption agency to work through the plan. And so, that you talk about what's going to happen in the hospital, and she chose a wonderful Christian family who would be adopting the baby, and then they have what they call a relinquishment ceremony. So, so what happens is you meet in a room together, and they get to meet each other, and the birth mom had asked me to come into her room before that ceremony. She said, I just need to say goodbye to the baby. Would you just be with me? So this was probably one of the most difficult things I ever experienced in my life. I would have to say that.
Wow.
So I went into the room, and she was holding the baby, and the baby looked like an angel. She was so gorgeous, and the mother was really pretty. And she just held her, and she asked if I would hold her. And she just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed in my arms as she was saying goodbye to her baby. I know. I know. It's just, it's so emotional because it was just like, it gave me this sense of, God the Father and Yeshua and, the sacrifice. And I've never seen such sacrifice in my life, ever. And maybe I never will again.
Wow.
But just to experience that. And then we went into the room with the adoptive family, and they were so full of love, and they gave each other letters and gifts, all kinds of gifts. And then the adoption agency had her write a letter to her baby so that when her baby's older, she would know that she was loved and, the reasons why she needed to make that decision. And so the way they have it set up is that they don't ever want the birth mother to see this family walking out with their baby.
Yeah.
So the birth mother and her family leaves first.
That makes
And then
sense.
after that, then the adoptive parents leave with the baby. But the most wonderful thing is this adoptive family knew about the birth mother's illness, and so they agreed to have her join them on vacations and be a part of the baby's life until the baby was probably like maybe 5, 6, 7, something like that. So she had a chance to be involved, because they saw what a huge sacrifice it was, knowing that she could never be a mom to a baby herself. And that was just so beautiful. And we have kept in touch. This was probably 1998. Her birthday's every Valentine's Day. So I always send her a card. And every Christmas we send each other cards. And she, the first year after the adoption, when she sent me a card, she said, she thanked me for helping her, and she said, I I know I did the right thing in my mind, but my heart will forever tell me otherwise.
Mm.
And I'll never forget
Wow.
that quote.
Wow.
And then this year, just as I was retiring, maybe the Lord needed me to see this or hear this or experience it. I got a card from her, and she hasn't said anything in many years except for, God bless you or love. She says, I just want to thank you again for coming alongside me all those years ago. I could not have done it without your help.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, so then you just sealed, all those years and made it even more real to me that you had called me to come alongside these precious women. And I just, wrote her back and just told her how brave she was and courageous. And I'll never in a million years ever forget it. And I treasure the fact that she invited me to come alongside her for that. So there was, just, I would say about 5 in all the years that I've been doing it, for me personally, witnessing. But they've always been, not, but there was another situation where the couple, it was kind of crazy. They were living on 2 different, one was in California and one was in New York, and they were both in medical school, and they didn't even want their parents to know that they were ever pregnant. And they didn't believe in abortion, so they wanted to have the baby and make an adoption plan. So I flew out to California with the mother, and then the father was in New York, and he watched the birth live. Somehow they did it. I can't remember even how they did it way back then, but they did. And then afterwards, they made the adoption plan. I'd set them up with an agency in California, and they were just thrilled about it because they knew that that's what they wanted to do. They didn't want to interrupt their medical career, and they didn't want their parents to know because they'd worry. And it was a win-win because, the baby had a wonderful family, and they were able to go on with their careers. But that was probably the most unusual one to have on 2 different coasts.
That's definitely unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wow, that seems like something that needs to be worked on.
It does, yeah.
Because there's a lot of loving families out there that need and want children that can't have them,
Yes.
and if that would save a life, that's just incredible.
Yeah.
That would just be incredible. Yeah. I actually thought that number would be a lot higher.
I
honestly.
wish.
Yeah.
I wish.
Yeah.
Wow. I just wish, but I think, what women say over and over and over again, in all these years I've heard the same exact line. Well, if I'm going to carry the baby all these 9 months, I'm certainly not going to give it away. I might as well just have it. So it's easier for me to just have the abortion and get it over and done with. That's what they say.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's their mentality.
But the ones that you have counseled, then most of them then do decide, yes, I'm going to keep the baby, and they raise the child.
Yeah, the ones who
elect to not have an abortion.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the pregnancy centers can help them and come alongside and with lots of resources and help in many ways, because it's the kind of thing where, there's like this misnomer that we only care about the baby, we don't care about the mom, which is so untrue, because we have so many programs and services available for the mom and the baby and the father, hopefully too, if he's willing to come in. So,
right.
So we do whatever we can to come alongside and help them for however long they need us.
Yeah.
It could be years later. Clients still come in, I need this, I need that. I still hear from my clients on Facebook, so many of them, now they've had kids and their kids are having kids. And every now and then they'll say, thank you. So there's still this great relationship, that I've been able to maintain with lots of my clients that way. And one, whenever she comes to Florida, always wants to see me, and now she has 3 children. And so it's an amazing thing.
That's a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. So, then out of probably, I may not even want to know this number, but then so out of the number of people that come to you or to the pregnancy centers and stuff, those places, how many do elect to have their baby? What is there a percentage that elect, and another percentage that says no, I'm going to go ahead and have the abortion?
It changes all the time. The stats change all the time. So I think we can honestly say that maybe every year it's better than the year before. I don't really have the exact numbers, but I think the more that ultrasound has come into the picture, and people and 3D ultrasound, and people know that I know the 6-week heartbeat law is always controversial, but at 5 weeks, you can, see or hear the heartbeat on the or see it on the screen.
Right.
And then even 6 weeks, that's when you can see that there's things are developing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that when people come in and they see that, they're like, whoa, I didn't realize that at this, young age there would be something developing here. So I think that that's helped. So I think if there's any possibility, like even this much, for the woman to sort of interact with her unborn child, it would be when she sees the ultrasound.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
sure.
if she comes in and she's just, then there's nothing. Then some of them don't even want to look at the ultrasound if they're that determined.
Yeah.
So
I
we
know,
just have to pray every time they come in.
Yeah. I know Laura and I went to an event at one of the local churches here with, oh my gosh, I can't think of his name now. The actor, Kirk Cameron.
Oh, yeah.
Where he was having, and that was the big thing. He was doing something with Stork or something. It was called Stork, I think. And it was the trucks or something that went and had the ultrasound machines in them, and apparently that worked very well to help with that. Help.
Yeah.
Said because they could form that attachment when they saw the baby.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's good. That's good
Yes.
that's available.
Yeah.
Well, you talked about an event that you have.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
Yes, I'd love to be able to tell you about this. This is really an exciting event that we really felt to do. Actually, myself and Midge Lancet and Eileen Lemelman, we're just really sisters of the heart, I would say. And so we're having an event called Sisters, HERS capitalized, of Zion Women's Summit, the weekend of June 6th through 8th, 2025.
Okay.
And it's going to be at the beautiful Mirasol in Palm Beach Gardens, Mirasol Clubhouse. And the vision is really like in the book of Ruth, where Ruth vows to Naomi, where you go, I will go, where you stay, I will stay, your people shall be my people, and your God is my God. And we want to open this up to women of all faiths, all backgrounds, and we want it to just be sort of like an even playing field. We don't want people to feel like, oh boy, I don't fit in any way. So we're not having it be anything that's polarizing, proselytizing, politicizing.
Right.
We just want to have a beautiful event where on Friday night we want to introduce non-Jewish people to the Jewish faiths and the roots of their Christianity with a Shabbat dinner.
Oh, I
and
love
then
it.
there'll be music throughout the weekend, and then on Saturday there'll be many what we would say breakout sessions that will have to do with the emotional health, and we have many different topics that women will be able to experience as they go through the different breakouts. There'll be keynote speakers, and it'll be just a wonderful time. And then on Saturday night there's going to be just a fun time because women don't often take care of themselves, so there'll be an opportunity for them to do some Israeli dancing, and then after that just have like a 70s dance party and just have fun, right?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And then on Sunday is going to be the day where we feel that that's going to be the spiritual refreshment and renewal. And we have Marty Getz, Marty and his daughter Misha are coming in, and they're going to be doing the worship and a worship concert, which will be a very powerful time for people to just let the Lord speak to their hearts, however they would imagine him to be. And then after that, there'll be an opportunity for prayer for those who want it. So we're just believing, that God will be moving the whole weekend because we're dealing with the emotional, the physical, the spiritual, and bringing in the Jewish aspects of the faith. So I think it's just going to be, very powerful, and it's basically to experience like the power of sisterhood, unity, emotional transformation, and the depth of spiritual connection, but really to bring women together in unity. So we're very, very excited about it. And if anybody wants to learn more about it, they can go to sistersofzion.com.
Okay.
And
cool.
There's podcasts on there, and it will tell more specifically about what we're going to be doing. And we just hope that many women will take advantage of it. And we still have the early bird special, so we want people to take advantage of it as soon as possible. So we hope they'll sign up soon.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Could you give our viewers any contact information if they would like to contact you personally? Maybe have you come and show the movie, or maybe they're interested in buying the book or something like that.
Yeah, I do have. This is an example of a flyer, but I do, and I'm available to go to churches or congregations or women's events. to do, a movie screening, and then I combine the movie screening with a book signing and a Q&A, and that usually ends up being really very powerful because people really will share very openly and honestly after that. So I guess the best ways to contact me is the movie website, which is rainbowinthenightmovie.com.
Okay.
And then my email is Goldala, Gold as in dog, ALAH, Goldala, at iCloud.com.
Okay.
And that might be the best way to reach me by email.
Great.
And, I'd be happy to talk to them and see what we can work out. Because I just want the message to get out there to as many people as possible. Because there's a lot of people hurting out there in the churches and just in general, hiding in the pain and their shame in the past. And, I just feel like the Lord wants to release them and free them. Just like I surrendered, they can surrender too and see what he does in their lives. So that's my mission, I think.
Love it. And like we had said before, the movie is available on Taken TV. We have it, so you can go to takentv.com, or you can download any of our apps on Apple, Fire Stick, Roku, any of those apps, and go to our Christian Movie Night channel and just search for Rainbow in the Night. Any last words you'd like to share?
No, I think this has been great. So I
Very
just,
cool.
hope and pray that the Lord will use my story to really help and encourage other people that, help is available, healing is available. The Lord loves them and wants to see them set free. Because I always think of the scripture, he whom the Son sets free is free indeed. Right?
Amen. I love that one.
Yes.
I love that one. Well, guys, thank you for watching this episode of Taken TV. Again, keep watching out for future episodes with wonderful guests like Goldie, and it was a pleasure having her here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, absolutely. Well, everybody have a wonderful rest of your day or evening. Thanks.